I'm Jim Check. You're watching Kelowna Now. On the phone with me all the way from Ottawa, capital of Canada, Ian Burns, our managing editor, and our really big show. And we got a really big show. Is he there?
I'm here, yeah.
There you go.
How you doing?
You're just snickering in the background, eh?
Just
Um,
giggling away.
the federal Liberals' New Year's Eve nightmare. Uh, the party vote intent sinks to 16%, down to like 6 seats in other polls, like to non-party status.
Yeah, that's what some of the polling analysts have said. They've sketched it out and said that it would mean that they'd stop being an official party. I mean, it's the worst one. It's the worst poll yet, really. And they keep getting worse, but this is the worst one so far.
I just finished Beyond the Ballot with Renee Merrifield. We talked a lot about Trudeau and his government. You can go watch that. That'll be up later, but it is on our X and it will be on our Kelowna Now shortly, as well as on our YouTube. Lots of good stuff in there. She's thinking that they're going to prorogue government and have an election in the fall. Um, I was kind of saying that I think that maybe the governor general needs to say that they need to have a spring election, but we shall see, right?
Well, Trudeau has explicitly said that he won't do that, hasn't he? He won't prorogue. But I suppose if he resigns, then somebody could come in and prorogue in on his behalf, kind of thing,
I,
or
I
on the
almost
Liberals' behalf.
I almost think if he was going to resign, he would have done it already. It just doesn't seem like in his mind that he needs to. And maybe he's right in a way. Like he's probably the strongest of the bunch because I don't know who replaces him that would be stronger than him. And like I mean, is the strongest of the weakest, really.
Well, people, the name that I keep hearing is Chrystia Freeland, the last like
Mm.
since she resigned. But I mean, just because she resigned, I don't think that that increases her caliber as a as a leader. And I'm
No,
not sure, or at least let's say her popularity as a leader. And I don't think that she has very much
I,
popularity.
I
So
think they're just
I'm not sure it
trying
would
to
be very useful.
tear a page out of the playbook from the last U.S. election. But
Yeah, I mean, it's got to the point now where it just looks like that there's almost nothing that they can do. I mean, something similar to this happened in England with the Conservative Party, where they kept changing leaders after Boris Johnson, and they went through a couple, and it was just pointless. And they kept trying these relaunches where it was like, look at all these new policies, much as Justin Trudeau's tried, and nothing worked because the electorate made up their mind long ago, and they were duly destroyed at the election. And it really seems like that's the position of the Liberal Party now. It's almost like it doesn't really matter what they do. They're doomed. That's what it feels like anyway.
Melissa Lantsman put out on an MP, like conservative MP, put out an X post there showing that the Quebec caucus now calling for Trudeau to resign because the Ontario caucus called, and I think the Atlantic caucus. Like, I mean, there's not a lot of supporters left for Justin Trudeau himself.
Well, how many MPs do they have west of Ontario? It's not very many, so
No,
that's like basically everyone, isn't it?
yeah. I mean, the people that are closest to him, I think, are still in his camp. LeBlanc, Melanie Jolie, and you and Stephen Jabot, obviously. You could usually say that Chrystia Freeland would be there, but I don't think she's, interested
No,
in.
but I think I mean you shouldn't underestimate the impact of polls. I mean, we saw that with the BC election where
Hmm.
everything played out really through polls, didn't it? I
Yeah,
mean, Kevin Folgan,
for
and
sure.
and then because that changed the money situation, didn't it? And then that forced Kevin Folgan's hand. So I
Right.
think this poll could well be the end. Like these polls can have pretty major effects.
Yeah. Um, we won't stay there too long because we'll probably end up coming back to it. But Happy New Year is already being celebrated on the other side of the globe. Um, so Happy New Year
Yeah,
already in Australia
it's
there.
it's probably getting towards India now, I imagine.
Yeah, moving
Uh,
across. Environment Canada celebrates 50 years of Celsius. I remember I was a young lad when I think I was around 16 or somewhere around there when we switched to the metric system.
Celsius makes sense, but the thing that it makes less sense, I'd say, as kilometers. But I don't know if that's a controversial opinion to hold, but I still like my miles.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's one of those issues, non-issues, but hey, there you go, right?
Yeah,
Um, and then Trump tariff to force Canada to agree to American demands. And this is where I think the biggest issue is if they don't hold an election and they prorogue government and stretch this out into Ontario into October, we have a very like weak, lamed up government, and then with basically giving Trump the free hand.
yeah. This article actually goes into that specific point, and it talks about how Trump is very well aware of how fragile Trudeau's position is, and he's trying to exploit that.
And that's what I'd say. The Governor General has a responsibility to hear the voices of Canadians and act in the best interests of Canada and call an election so that we can have a new government and a new mandate.
Well, if she did that, then that would cause something like a mini constitutional crisis, though, wouldn't it, as well? Because she's supposed to be ceremonial. It's the same thing, like in England, obviously, instead of a governor general, it's the king or the queen. You often hear it come up like, oh, the king has to get rid of these people, but it's like they're very, very reluctant to ever do that, aren't they? To ever actually wade in to the
I don't
political
think
sphere.
we're I don't think we're spending our money very wisely then.
Yeah, well, we've got a king anyway. That's Canada's king. He should get over here and do that ceremonial stuff. Lazy Charles.
There you go. The premier is engaged in flat out national democracy. Um, and the Calgary Herald is talking up Danielle Smith. And they're saying that she's filling the void that is currently going on in Canada.
Yeah, I mean, she's been very busy, hasn't she? I don't know if there's been any sort of insider information about whether she wants to go into federal politics, but she's given herself every opportunity to,
So
make
she's
it in the big leagues.
she's the only one I know Canadian politician that's going to Trump's inauguration. Have you heard of anybody else? Like she's got her ticket, and she's probably taken a lot of work with her too, because I know she wants to get stuff done for Alberta.
Yeah, I'm not sure of anyone else. I don't know if anyone else would be welcome, frankly.
I'm sure Pierre Poilievre could probably manage to wrangle himself a ticket if he talked to Joe Rogan.
He's trying to walk a very fine line, isn't he? He's trying to not seem like he's friendly with Trump because he's been attacked for
Yeah.
being a sort of equivalent of Trump, hasn't he? And he wants to distance himself from Trump. But it would certainly be wise, wouldn't it, for him to go and have a face-to-face meeting with Trump.
Danielle Smith has used her connections from when she had Tucker Carlson in Alberta and Jordan Peterson, and she's used that connection to get down to the U.S. and network with tons of governors and other senators and all that stuff to do some of the work that she feels is necessary to make Alberta prosperous.
Yeah, I mean, David Eby, he's kind of chaired a lot of these premiers meetings, hasn't he, recently? He keeps talking about how it's a massive advantage for Canada that it has this kind of diversity of leaders. But I mean, if you look at that from Trump's perspective, it's an opportunity to divide and rule as well, isn't it? So I'm not sure how good that is for Canada.
I mean, Alberta's got the strong hand. They're actually, utilizing their resources more so than anybody else, and that's what the United States needs from us is the resources, not necessarily, like our manufacturing. They actually don't want the manufacturing because they want to manufacture themselves.
Yeah, they want the jobs, don't
Yeah.
they? But yeah, I mean, it's a complex relationship, isn't it? And I think you can't be too chummy, and that's certainly what Pierre Polyev seems to be doing. He wants to appear like strong and tough,
Yeah.
but we'll
Uh,
see which one works out.
I think UCP MLA in Alberta is calling, Jackie Lovely is calling for Danielle Smith to be the politician of the year.
Well, I mean, I feel like that would probably go to Polyev,
Yeah.
even though he hasn't really done all that much, but he's certainly, just in terms of polls and what he's really put a lot of pressure on Trudeau, and he's made Trudeau and the Liberals make a lot of errors,
Yeah,
which
I
is kind
think
of his job as opposition leader.
he's pushed Trudeau to let us all see what's underneath the hood of that shiny exterior.
Yeah, I mean, to put it in sort of blunt language, he's kind of humiliated him, hasn't he, on a number of occasions, and
Uh,
set traps for him, and he's fallen into them, and he's made himself into a very difficult figure to target. They keep trying to say he's gonna introduce cuts and so on, but that doesn't seem to be landing.
uh,
So he's got his defense strong, and he's obviously got his offensive strategy
I think one of
well
the things he
targeted.
has done is expose the liberals for their lack of accountability and transparency, for sure.
Yeah, which is, as we've discussed it before, a tad ironic since the way that he seems to run his own party. But that's just the way it is. That's the nature of politics. When you're the opposition, you're not scrutinized in the same way, and that's as it should be, because it's the people with power that should be scrutinized the most. And I think Pierre's being very smart about how he exploits that.
2025 coming at you hard and coming with it more taxes. That's what the Liberal government is about to deliver to you, right? So first, payroll taxes are going up. If you've earned 81,000 or more, you're going to pay another $403 in CVP and EI. And your employer will also pay out nearly $6,000 per employee. A lot of people don't realize that the employer pays a lot of other things called the burden for to employ somebody that's all part of their costs, right? So $6,000 per employee because they pay an equivalent of the CPP plus they pay 1.4 times the EI premiums. And so small businesses already struggling with high costs are going to get even more taxes, like an additional tax there. And then the carbon tax is set to increase April 1, another gift coming to you. So that'll increase it from the current 17.6 cents a liter to 20.9 cents, or 21 cents a liter. Plus, the GST is calculated on top of that, so even a little bit more. Um, and they say that the carbon tax will cost the average family, if you're filling up a minivan, about 15 bucks, close to 15 bucks every time you fuel up. But the key point in that is carbon tax is a compounding tax, so it's not just what you pay at the pump. It's what when the train has to move the stuff across Canada, they're paying a carbon tax. When a truck moves goods across Canada, they're paying a carbon tax. When they heat the building where your bread is stored at Save On Foods and other grocery stores, they're paying a carbon tax for that heat. If the plastic bag for the to make that plastic bag for the bread is a carbon tax. So carbon tax is in all the energy that we have. Not all the energy, not in the solar, but it's in the bulk of our energy, and it's added to almost all our goods and services.
Yeah,
So there you
and
go.
but we can be grateful at least that we're very confident that all these taxes are going to go and to be
Yeah.
spent on very shrewd investments, aren't they? And we're going to be very grateful for those investments.
your sarcasm is very fitting, I guess. Federal alcohol taxes also increased by 2% in April, so that pint that you enjoy every now and then will be going up. And then the capital gains tax in the budget, which still hasn't been gone through, but the CRA supposedly says they're going to start charging for it. So that's a big tax change. Um,
Yeah, that's kind of the biggest one in many ways, isn't it? Certainly the most politically sensitive one.
and then there's Donald Trump taking a look at Canada and looking at our stock chart, the Canadian dollar, and saying, "Hey, you want to pay 60% less taxes? You can become a an American state."
Yeah, I mean, if the polls are to be believed, it seems like more and more Canadians are considering that option, but I
And I
don't
don't
think
think
there's
that
any
no,
real
I doubt if that
seriousness to
one
that.
is ever going to play out. But I mean, it's definitely a way to kind of divide the nation again. And then
Yeah.
Polymarket was active in the U.S. election, and they had picked Donald Trump, I think, with odds of 1.6 to 1, and Kamala Harris was 2 to 1, and they called it pretty good, and the odds went up to like I think 95% for Trump right near the end. And then right now, there's the Polymarkets. If you want to go bet, Pierre Polyev is 92% likely to be the next PM. Freeland and Jagmeet. They don't have Justin in here. Do they
Well,
know
I guess
something we
because
don't
he
know?
already is PM, maybe.
What's that?
Maybe because he already is PM.
Well, he'd still be the next one. if he wins again.
I suppose. It depends how they've set it up. But I mean, it's kind of it's getting to the it almost seems to be getting to the point where it's a little bit concerning that it's so certain that Pierre Poilievre is going to win. It's kind of it creates a very strange political landscape, you know. It's a really weird environment where almost everybody knows that he's going to be the prime minister within a sort of matter of months. It's very unusual. It almost seems to defeat the purpose of an
Well,
election, really.
yeah, it's funny because in the United States, Donald Trump, since he's won, has been really acting like the president, and Joe Biden is kind of not anywhere to be seen. And but it's not happening here in Canada like that, right? So I guess there hasn't been an election either. But
Yeah, but I don't know what that is with Biden. I mean, if you wanted to be nice to Biden, you could say that he was trying to help America and trying to help the transition by being quiet. But yeah,
he
I'm not
went on
sure what he's up
vacation.
to.
He went on vacation.
Yeah.
They said that. I think he spent 40% of his time on vacation. I wonder if Justin Trudeau has beat him at that or where they at with that. Because he's done a lot of
Yeah.
vacations as well. I don't have that stat though. Um,
No.
moving on to the markets. Again, we've been talking about this for a while, most of the month of December, since the election, chopping around that $2,600 mark, looking for direction. Like as it tightens up there, it looks like it wants to go higher. Um, but right now, and it's light trading volumes in all the markets, so they get moved one way or another very easily when a lot of the traders are away. Bitcoin, again, up quite a bit this morning, but again, chopping in that range there. A lot of the tailwinds for Bitcoin are strong, so that it's very favorable headwinds, or not headwinds, tailwinds for Bitcoin right now. Canadian dollar, that chart looking as sick as usual. That's basically what you would call the stock of Canada. If you look at the dollar, it is basically represents what Canada looks like on a stock market. Canada's stock chart does not look good because we have lots of assets, but where they're not being utilized. So that's why there's like a hostile merger takeover being really put out by Trump because he knows the asset value of Canada is very strong. It doesn't reflect in the stock chart right now, but the asset value of Canada is one of the richest resource nations in the world. He knows what the underlying assets are. Just like when you see a company that's trading way below its asset value, and then that's where you get hostile merger takeovers.
Yeah. I mean, it's of particular value to him as well, since given the proximity to America. I mean,
Yeah.
those resources are worth so much more than they would be if they were in Central Asia or somewhere like that, because it's so much cheaper, it's so much easier to get
Political
hold of them as
stability.
well.
Well, we could say that political stability uh, next door, and then like a similar type of cultures with the people, similar type of like a lot of Canadians are influenced by American media. I mean, there a lot of people watch American media versus their own. A lot of the technology, a lot of the social media is all U.S. based. There you go. AI in our AI world, we got a little video we're gonna play from you. Look at this is like what they do with drones and fireworks. It's when drones and fireworks meet. If you can put that full screen when you play that. Just gonna take a second here to get that to play. We lost it there. There you go. Pretty amazing. There you go. That's a like a cool looking fireworks display. In our
Very cool.
EV section, S&P Global Mobility predicts that global EV sales will go up 30% in 2025 compared to 2024. So EVs, there was a lot of talk about them slowing down, but I'm seeing a lot of stuff out there saying that EV stuff, even some of the legacy manufacturers like Ford had a record month of sales, and then so I think Kia is having some luck in selling their EVs now too. So EVs continue to dominate in China, the biggest auto manufacturer in the world now. No longer the United States, China.
Can the American, I'm looking there at the American figures, up 36%, and also actually Europe, 43% for Europe. I'm very doubtful whether their grids can handle that kind of thing, but that's one of the main challenges, isn't it? What we'll have to wait and see.
Well, there you go. So they're saying about 15 million units there. So in global, we got the chart here for global car production, and you're going to see who dominates. There you go, China, the big box there at 32%, in the United States second at 11%. And, India, like weirdly, 6.3, and Canada. Can you find Canada on the map, Ian?
Yeah, right there next to Argentina, our good friends in Argentina. I'm quite surprised by that Brazil there. What cars do the Brazilians make? That's
I don't
interesting.
know. What is the
And
Canadian
Spain
stat
as
there?
well. Yeah,
Canada at
it's not particularly good reading.
Canada there just underneath Mexico there at 1.7%, Mexico at 4.3%. There you go.
Yeah. But it's and also the Czech Republic there and it's Slovakia, two tiny countries, have
Yeah.
kind of roughly similar sort of production to Canada.
So Canada is not known as a manufacturing hub, not known as a technology hub. I mean, we do some of that stuff, but we don't, as far as the world goes, we don't show up in the top. What we do have is the richest resource nation in the world by diversity, for sure. And yet, that is the asset that uh, the governments here, in British Columbia and in Canada, seem to want to suppress or slow down or stop utilization of our natural resources. And that reflects in our stock chart, the Canadian dollar.
Yeah. And the country that doesn't isn't ashamed of its resources, namely China, is unsurprisingly at the top of
And
this list.
China did come out and say that they will not introduce a carbon tax that would impoverish their people. They will never do that, but they will invest in clean technologies, and they lead the world in that too. They lead the world in solar. They lead the world in wind. So
Yeah.
getting it done by not punishing their people with, they
They
don't have
also lead the world in the refining of all the metals that you need to
rare
fund
earth minerals.
the
Yeah,
technology change. Yeah.
yeah. I say to people that if you ever watch Star Trek, the Chinese government is like the Ferengi. They just they find technologies, they invite American companies in there, and then they take that technology and build a competitor to that technology. Like they have 100 EV makers, and they invited Tesla there. Tesla's making cars there, but they're also making 100 different EV. There's 100 different EV manufacturers in China.
Yeah, it's quite interesting to see that they have such entrepreneurial spirit there in China, especially considering it's run by communists theoretically.
Here's our meme of the day. Uh, the real threat to democracy is the bureaucracy. And there was a video that played on the internet, and if they exchange when they use that rhetoric there, that like Pierre Poilievre is a threat to democracy, Donald Trump's a threat to democracy. That if you just change the word to bureaucracy, then that made more sense. And here now they're saying the real threat to democracy is the bureaucracy.
Or alternatively,
Strangulation
the
by
real threat to the
regulation.
bureaucracy is democracy.
Yeah, so I mean, as the government gets bigger, they always want to make more regulation, more regulation, more regulation. And I think they've said that Doge thing down there. I think they for every new regulation being added in the United States, they want to get rid of 10. It's kind of like cleaning out
Yeah.
your house, right? If you want to bring something in, you got to get rid of something.
Don't be a hoarder.
Don't be a hoarder of regulations. Because I think
Yeah, or
sometimes people,
bureaucrats.
well, bureaucrats obviously want more money. Like we bloated government. Like if we even look at our own provincial government, he basically gave all the NDP MLAs a raise because they all got positions.
Yeah, and I mean, you could say they're not bureaucrats per se, they're representatives, but if you look at the bureaucracy itself as well, that's grown enormously and
Uh, that's
really
where the growth is in BC.
vastly faster than the private sector.
Yeah, that's where the growth is. So I mean, of course they're gonna like, and then the taxpayer, like I talked with Renee, and it said like the capital that's leaving Canada, it's going to be a lot less to tax, so the people that are left behind are going to have to bear a bigger burden.
Yeah, well, we've seen that play out many times over history. Let's let's hope it doesn't happen here.
Well, we're going to close off the new year or the 2024 with some good news. Big White, breathtaking fireworks display. Promises Resort welcomes 2025. There is fireworks here in Kelowna as well. The New York New Year. I think the fireworks go at 9 o'clock. So plenty of great places to take in fireworks in the Kelowna and Big White. If you're looking for some family fun.
You might be able to see both if you're in Big White. Two for one.
um, and then I think you can take a bet on when the baby's born. I think you can go on BC Lottery Corporation and bet who the first baby of the year is.
Yeah, which hospital I think, isn't it? Or which
Yeah.
health area. Yeah.
You're
You
looking
can bet on
for
anything, can't you?
what's that?
Yeah, I'm saying you can just bet on anything now. I mean, it's kind of a little bit absurd, isn't it? How could you possibly have any kind of like tips when it comes to that?
Yeah,
Just
I
call
mean
up
it
the
would just
pediatric doctors or something.
yeah, you just have to call up every hospital you got anybody. Do you know what I mean? Like that would be crazy, right? Like that I think for the Taylor Swift concert they had if she would visit certain Vancouver landmarks or what her first song was going to be. People seem to like to bet on things like in other than just sports.
Yeah, well, I've seen in the past like really absurd ones, like what color shirt is somebody gonna wear and stuff like that. It's quite amusing. It's kind of it makes it seem a bit more innocuous than maybe it actually is.
Yeah. Um, that's all we have for the 2024 season. We're going to be back in 20. I think we're going to try and do a show tomorrow, aren't we, Ian?
Yeah,
There you go. We're going to try and do a
first of
show
the
to
year.
welcome 2025 in. As always, if you would like to support us, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on X, follow us on TikTok, follow us on, well, we wish we could ask you to follow us on Instagram and Facebook. And maybe if we get a change in government, they will scrap Bill C-18 and we'll get back our earned audience of 200,000. And then maybe they'll stop choosing which media to fund because we don't get any funding, but a lot of the other media does. And I don't think any government should be funding media. Media should be independent and on its own. And then let us find our way, but give us back what we earned. I think that's a fair
Oh,
Christmas wish or New Year's wish.
yeah, that would be a nice little gift, wouldn't it? Could also throw in there that it would be good if the federal government stopped pretending that it's qualified to determine who is and isn't a journalist, which I think is an extremely sinister development.
Yep. Yeah. I think we need a period of where we innovate and incentivize and and look for a better tomorrow. But I do believe the sun is coming up, and that's a message to everybody out there. The sun is coming up in Kelowna today, but I think the sun is coming up in 2025, and we can look forward to a better tomorrow. And I think the technology that's coming on the horizon, the immediate horizon, should pave a way for a better tomorrow for many people, for most people, and an age of abundance, hopefully.
That would be very nice. That's a good thing to wish for.
There you go. Hope for a spring election or earlier. But what's your call? Do you mind to get it out there? Ask Renee what she thought would happen, and so I'm going to ask you.
I think, and it might sound ridiculous given how long this has dragged on, but I think he's going to resign in the next week or something. That's my gut instinct. And then,
Oh,
but what will happen then is the mystery, I guess. I think probably they'll try and extend it as long as possible, the Liberals, but I do think Trudeau's gonna. I think he's finished. That's my sort of like gut instinct.
yeah. I almost like there's two parts of me, and I think that if he was going to resign, he would have done it already. I don't think he's willing to let go. Um, I think he might try to prorogue Parliament, and but I hopefully the government in general says, yeah, you're gonna have 6 weeks. You're having a spring election, and that's what it is. And so
Yeah.
I'm thinking we're gonna get a spring election, and I think that's what Canadians deserve, to have their voices heard, and to give whoever it is that's elected a new mandate, and the voice of the people should be heard, because we are, after all, a democracy and not a bureaucracy.
But it's also, I mean, there is a very neutral point to be made here about the sort of the good of Canada. And it's very important that there's an election and that there's a strong mandate for someone, some party,
Yeah.
because somebody needs to stand up to Donald Trump. Otherwise, we're just going to get completely crushed, as has kind of been what's been happening the last couple of months, and he isn't even president yet. So I think it is quite important for the country's health and prosperity that there's somebody that's,
Yep.
that's
Definitely.
in a stable position, has stable authority.
Definitely, we need a strong government and strong leadership right now to fend off the threat that is being played out to our people, even. Do you know what I mean? Like when they're offering like lower taxes and all that, definitely need a strong response in that regard. But we can't have that right now, because we have basically a lame duck government that even its own MPs want uh, him to resign.
Yeah, well, you can't achieve anything when you're having fights at home, can you? You have to have that basic sort of level of unity to lead and to rule, if you want to look at it that way. And that is not the Liberal Party right now. So I think almost everybody in Canada would like to see a resolution to this, even if that is unlikely as it might seem, even if that is a new Liberal majority or something like that. But some kind of resolution and some stability is desperately needed, I think.
I agree. That said, we do thank you for watching Kelowna Now, and we wish you a happy New Year and a safe New Year's Eve out there. If you're going to enjoy any kind of refreshments, make sure you have a ride home. And then, and the fireworks, I think, are at 9 o'clock here at New York New Year's downtown. And then Big White, I'm not sure what time it is. There only you go to bigwhite.com and you can find all those details there too if you're heading up to the mountain to watch the fireworks. And lots of people watch them right from their window, because you can see the fireworks in Kelowna from many vantage points. With that said, Happy New Year, and thank you for watching Kelowna Now.
We don't just report the news, we live here too. We're your neighbors, bringing you stories that matter to all of us. No government funding, no outside influence. Kelowna Now, local.